Life on a boat is pretty good, but there's 10 things that'll make it even better. Listen in. Hi, welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. I'm Carolyn Sherlock, here with tips, reviews, and how-tos for your cruising adventure. This episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Marmara Imports. Their hand-loomed, fair trade, organic cotton Turkish towels are highly absorbent, dry quickly, fold flat, and are soft and luxurious. Perfect for life aboard. Use coupon code PODCAST10 for 10% off any order of $40 or more. MarmaraImports.com. More than a towel.
Slow down, slow down.
Yeah, I love living on a boat. But there are a few things that make the life even better. I'm going to give you 10 of them right now. First is power. Constantly having to limit your electrical usage is not a nice lifestyle. We had 453 watts of solar power in our previous boat on the Sea of Cortez, and then added a Honda generator. While we were still careful not to waste electricity, there was enough power for me to write and edit photos on the computer, to have plenty of light to read by in the evenings, for really bright work light when dealing with problems, running the refrigerator 57 minutes of every hour in the worst of the summer heat, and running enough fans to be comfortable. And, of course, for Dave to make microwave popcorn when he wanted to. And then, on our current boat, we have 345 watts of more efficient solar power. And again, a Honda generator. I love it. Oh, and by the way, there's going to be links to all of these items in the show notes. The second item here is a great mattress. If I don't sleep well, nothing's going to go well. The previous owners had put a custom handcraft mattress on our previous boat, and it was wonderful. They're not cheap, but it was a very worthwhile luxury. Actually, to me, a good night's sleep is not a luxury, but a necessity. Sleep deprivation is the seed of many poor decisions and cranky people. Third is Dinghy, what I call Dinghy 2.0. Dinghy 1.0 was a roll-up with relatively small tubes and a 6-horsepower motor. No way would it plane, and it was downright scary when we had to return to the boat through Whitecaps. Dinghy 1.5 saw a new-to-us 8-horsepower motor. Better, but still no planing, and then the motor started becoming unreliable. It limited where we hiked and snorkeled. When we finally bit the bullet and got Dinghy 2.0, a new 10-foot rib with big tubes, a new 15-horse outboard, and a crane for the motor, the difference was amazing. We could go anywhere we wanted. We stayed a lot drier. It planed. We could carry a lot of gear, parts, and provisions. Basically, just a huge improvement in our life. And we did exactly the same thing on our current boat. We ended up with a 10-foot aluminum-hulled rib and a 15-horse outboard before we went to the Bahamas. We loved it. Another big upgrade on the dinghy was getting Adventure Marine quick-release wheels. Unfortunately, they're no longer made, but having dinghy wheels that are actually large enough to work on beaches and simple to flip up and down, they are fantastic. You can pull the dinghy ashore on any beach. The fourth item was a good anchor and a powerful electric windlass. This is more in the we sleep well category. Our anchor has always been oversized, but we have never moved. Ever. 3 different times we were in situations where boats anchored next to us dragged and went on the rocks when the weather turned nasty. Yes, we had picked the wrong anchorage and hadn't bailed out when we should have. But our anchor kept us safe. We had a spade on our previous boat. On this boat, we're using a Mantis, which I think is even better. Equally important was a powerful electric windlass installed by previous owners. With it, we anchored further from shore, re-anchored if we didn't like where we were sitting, and we were able to bail out a few times when winds switched and we were suddenly on a lee shore. A water maker. In the Sea of Cortez, water can be hard to come by, and we hate to have to go to town any more often than necessary. Having a water maker meant that we were very self-sufficient and never had to plan our itinerary by where we could get water. And the same thing is true when we went to the Bahamas this past year. Even now, sitting in Boot Key Harbor, it's nice not to have to ferry it out in jerry cans and lift it aboard. 6 is an underwater camera. Initially, I got a waterproof camera just to be able to keep it in the cockpit, take it in the dinghy, use it in the rain, and so on without worrying about it. To me, this was huge to really get cruising photos, and the reason I'd recommend everybody getting a waterproof camera. You just can't get good cruising photos if the camera is locked away in a Pelican case. But then I started taking photos while snorkeling and diving, and I discovered a whole new hobby. My current one is the Olympus Tough TG4. They now have a TG5 out. I highly recommend it. It's a great, small, point and shoot with excellent picture quality. Number 7 is my Keen Newport H2 sandals. I've worn these since 2006, and they are simply the best shoes I've found for warm weather cruising. They're designed to go in and out of the water. They don't stretch, they don't rub raw spots, and the toe protector does exactly that. Everywhere we've cruised has been filled with thorns, and these were the only sandals I ever found that they couldn't pierce. In 2008, I finally convinced Dave to get a pair instead of the Tevas he's been wearing, and now he's a convert too. We're still wearing these over 10 years later. Not the same pair, of course, but we still love them, haven't found anything we liked better. Number 8 is a long swim ladder. Our first boat came with a lovely teak swim ladder, with the top step of it about a foot above the water. Luckily, the first time we put it over and then jumped in, there was another boat nearby with the dinghy in the water to pick us up and help us get back on the boat. No way could we make it up that ladder. We quickly bought a new long one. It needs to have at least 2 steps underway, and it got a lot of use. Being able to jump over the side several times a day in hot weather is one of the true joys of cruising. This was also one of the first upgrades when we bought Barefoot Gal. We realized we just couldn't quite get our foot comfortably onto that bottom step. Number 9 is a track-mounted whisker pole. A whisker pole allowed us to sail a lot more, and having it mounted on a track on the mast made it easy to use. So many boats with a whisker pole have them on deck. Yeah, it is cheaper. And then they never use them because they're such a pain to handle. We could still use ours when it was blowing over 30 knots with no danger to either one of us. It was also great for hoisting the dinghy. I'm putting a link to my Cruising World article about installing and using the pole. And I will say, we do still have a whisker pole on Barefoot Gal, but because this boat is so much lighter and smaller, we do only have it on the deck. But for most boats, having it on the track is going to be the right way to go. Okay, the next one, number 10, polarized transitions lenses in my glasses. They're not cheap, but having polarized glasses and not having to change between clear glasses and sunglasses is priceless. And yes, they are lineless bifocals too. That's it. 10 items that have made my cruising life so much better. Enjoy your life. Thanks again to our sponsor, MarmaraImports.com. More than a towel, use with imagination. And thanks to you for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and tell your friends about it. And a review is always appreciated.
Slow down.